Wanted, Rich or Dead, a game set in the Old West. We have a lot of games that are about worker placement. This is a game of cowboy placement. In truth, yes and no, I like the expression, but in truth it is more about simultaneous selection of action, and then, well, you resolve that and see what happens. The players play the role of outlaws in the Old West, and the only thing that you're trying to do is to rob places and to become indeed rich or dead. You don't really die, but I guess if you don't become rich, you feel so sad, and that is bad enough. So players will control their outlaws. They'll go to different places. From time to time, they'll shoot at each other, and at the end of the game, the wealthiest player will be the winner. That is the only criterion for success in this game. Let me show you how Wanted, Rich or Dead works. The game is played in front of these 5 standees that represent different locations of a western town. The gunsmith, the casino, the bank, the general store, and the saloon. And the players will try to rob one of these places each turn. Now, each player has a mat that goes in front of them, and then they will use to keep track of how many bucks they have. When you earn money by robbing it, usually, you have to place it in an empty slot, and you only have a number of slots in your player aid. Luckily enough, you may be able to acquire items that have other slots. For example, you can hide $1 in your bandana because there's a slot there that tells you can do so. You can place 2 on your Mustang, and so on and so forth. But it's important that money, they don't have credit cards in the Old West, so I like that. You have to figure out where you're gonna carry. So you have your player aid. Also, there is a number of stats here that indicates the number of items that you can carry, and then each player aid with the portrait of a cowboy also comes with a unique deck. And these decks and these mats are really different from one another. Some have different bonuses, as we will see later, some have different numbers of stats, and the decks also are very different from one another. Each card in a player's unique deck has, well, 3 sections really. One indicates a location, another one the effect that you get to resolve when you're robbing that location, and another one, the duel effect, which is the effect that you use, that you activate when you play the card during a duel. Each turn, pretty simple. Each turn, each player selects a card from their unique deck and places it face down in front of themselves, like so. And then all players reveal, this was a bad example, all players reveal the location that they have decided to rob. This player, for example, decides to go to the bank. Suppose that this is the corresponding meeple, and this is the player as committed to go to the gunsmith. Once all players have been placed in their locations, in their selected locations, you resolve the locations in order from left to right. First the gunsmith, then the casino, and so on and so forth. If there is only one player in a location, the player gets to perform the robbery action. In this case, for example, the gunsmith, you get to steal 3 cards, those special item cards. You keep 1 and you discard the rest. If the player had robbed the casino instead, like so, then the rob effect would be you roll a die and you rob that many dollars. So the dice are special dice that have 1, 2, and 3 bullets. And so, look at me, I robbed $2 and I placed them on my mat. And my mat, I had to place them in a specific order, starting from the top left slot and then moving from left to right and then from top to bottom. However, if more than one cowboy is in the same location, there's going to be a shootout. They're going to shoot at each other. The way we resolve this is very simple. Each player will select a card from their hand, a card that is left after the one that they played there, a card from their hand, and and they put it face down. So each player in the shootout selects a card, and then they reveal it, and this time they activate the bottom effect, which is meant to produce bullets, and the player with the highest number of bullets wins the shootout and gets to rob the location as normal. The other player doesn't do anything, they wasted their turn. For example, here, how many bullets I produce, the roll of a die, so 3, lucky roll, plus 1 for each $2 that I'm carrying. So right now I have produced 5 bullets because I'm carrying $4. I may have bonuses from other places, maybe from special items that I'm carrying. And for example, maybe I decide to use this one, so to get more bullets. Also, there are bullets on my player aid, and I can pretty much use as a bonus the single highest number of bullets that shows on my player aid. So for example, you see here there's a slot with a 2, a 1, and a 1. That means that right now I can add the 2. Yeah, you don't add 4, you don't have the total. The single highest total. The single highest result. So in this case, I produce 5 bullets from other sources, and right now I go to 7. If I'm carrying more dollars, these dollars must be heavy, and so now actually I can only add plus 1, and this is what I have. Then I don't get any bonus from that section of my player aid. So that is how you resolve a shootout. In case there is a tie, then simply you repeat the process. All players in the shootout get to play another card face down, reveal it, produce bullets, and continue like this. This is important because there are cards that, for example, give you a bonus based on the number of cards that you already played this turn. So maybe your first shot was just a tie, but then with those cards you get better chances of getting a better results later. Other cards will give you a bonus based on how many cards are still in your hand. So actually you want to play those early in a shootout. So all of these things and these cards really work differently from one another. Continue like this until all dollars have been assigned, all dollars have left the supply, and then at that point the wealthiest player is the winner of the game. Describing this game or giving you a sense of did we like it or not, or how does it play, is a little hard for me because this game has had such different reactions depending on the different people that they played it with. With part of my usual game group, it was a blast. People were cheering, laughing, woohoo, just having such a good time. With other people, it felt completely flat. And I've tried to reconcile these two different situations, including the fact that I also liked it and found it completely bland depending on the situation, depending on the group. I didn't think that either of the two groups, quote-unquote, got it wrong. It is just a game that requires a certain spirit. And that is, again, I guess you have to enjoy the theme and you have to enjoy the humor, the talk, the bragging that can come out of it, the teasing that comes out of that. And yet at the same time, it requires a certain commitment because you do have to get to know the decks of the opponents. You do have to get a sense of what they played, where they may want to go next, what they may want to do. Again, but most importantly, if there's a shootout, I want to really know what you have in your hand, what if your deck of cards gives you an incentive to go all out right now or to shoot an average shot right now and preparing for a better shot later. So you do have, in a certain sense, it feels like a crazy fast romp, but in truth, there is some depth in there, but it also requires some homework. You require some commitment. It is a game that has, again, a heavier element than you would imagine at first. And that is the problem with the other section of my group that didn't quite, I don't know, they didn't feel like getting there or they didn't see that element. Players, as they were playing it, they just play randomly. They just felt, this game is completely random. There's no way of figuring out what the opponents are going to do next. And so if you play randomly where you're going to places, if you're playing randomly doing a shootout, there is no point in fact, and then it becomes no more than Candyland. And you know, I could have stopped showing the decks and say, yes, but if I know that he has that card, and I know he played that card, and I played this card, then I get a sense the next turn in the shootout, the next phase in the shootout, he may play this one. Then knowing this, I'll play this one. And they looked at me like, well, why don't we just play a hard, heavy game then? Why do we have to do all this work for something that then at the end may feel anticlimactic? So it's a strange game in that, because it requires the commitment of a heavier game so that then you can have the fun, the fun laugh, the laugh and the cheers and the bragging that you would have in a thematic but much lighter game. It's a little bit of a strange beast there, again, because of the strategy that either you ignore it entirely and then it's completely boring, but I guess that applies to most games, or you really commit to it, but at the end, well, there's still a random element, and at the end you feel like, yeah, well, if it's just about cheers and laughs, maybe why don't we just play a bluffing game? Because in truth, this is what the game is. It is a bluffing game that for the bluff to work, for you to be able to enjoy the bluff, you need to do a lot of reading of the decks and a lot of metagame and thinking. So, Wanted, Richard, that mixed feelings, mixed emotions, not so much because I don't know if I like it or not, right? Because I like it and I don't like it depending on the people that I played it with, and that is just I don't know. This is a little bit of a strange game. This is how it worked in my group. It can be very situational. If you think that your group may like it, this can be a blast. Otherwise, you know, maybe you should stay away with it. And I'm aware that this is a very circular conclusion. This is a game that if you will like it if you play with people that will like it. Alas, this is pretty much what I have to offer, because it is a game that has in fact caused such different reactions that I witnessed. That's, I guess, a little bit of a Rorschach ink blot. So some players will see something really fun and some will not. Wanted, Reach, or Dead. Personally, I had fun sometimes, not a huge fan, if nothing else, because it seems to be such an unreliable game. I don't know really how players are going to react to it, and there are games that are just more reliable. Wanted, Reach, or Dead. Not a bad game with some groups, pretty good game with other groups, totally bland with others still.